Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping by. I hope everybody's doing well. Don't you love all those autumn scenes? One of my favorite quotes is, "Autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower." Now we know all those leaves aren't going to be around very much longer. Where I live in Virginia, I think the trees have probably dropped maybe 75% of their leaves. I guess it depends on the type of tree. I know my wisteria still has leaves, and I think it's one of the last ones to drop the leaves. I think my favorite leaf though is the sycamore tree leaf. It's such a huge leaf, guys. We have a sycamore on our backyard and the leaves are enormous. I think some of them might be 10 inches wide. But anyway, I know you're not here to talk about the leaves of the trees. I know you're here to make that gorgeous bracelet that you saw in the introduction. And if you love sparkly crystals and you like the colors of autumn, this is the video for you. And it's actually a very easy bracelet to make, but I will say that it's a little bit time consuming. Now my video is not going to be long because I like to shorten it by speeding up the parts that are repetitive. But when you go to make this bracelet, you're going to see that it's very tedious and a little time consuming. In any case, it's still a very easy bracelet to make, and I encourage you to try it even if you're a beginner. Now we're going to be using the beads that came in GGC's treasure bag, her latest edition, which was released about a month ago. The name of it was Autumn Tones. And if you're not familiar with GGC's treasure bags, I'll leave a link down below to her website so you can go check it out. Her collections are absolutely stunning. I've never been disappointed. She absolutely packs those bags with very long strands, and it's very good value, guys, but it's very good quality as well. Now her bags are limited edition bags. It's not a subscription, so once they're gone, that's it. And I know that this latest edition is all sold out, unfortunately. But the good news is that you can still make this bracelet because I'm sure you can find similar beads in your stash. This design pretty much works with any beads, especially the 4 and 6 millimeter size beads. So if you have those beads in your stash, you can still make this bracelet. But anyway, guys, I will leave all of the information down below. And if you do go to the website, please sign up for notifications if you're interested, because Gina will send you a notification when she gets ready to release a new edition. So anyway, guys, I'm very anxious to show you how to make this bracelet. So let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. And here we have GGC's treasure bag, her latest edition. This bag came out actually about a month ago. The name of the bag is Autumn Tones. And as you can see, it comes in a beautiful organza bag, and it's absolutely packed with beads, as you can see. Now, if you haven't had a chance to see the unbagging for this bag, I'll link it down below so you can go check it out. So obviously, I'm not going to go through each of the items. I'm just going to pull out the beads that we're going to be using. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. And here are the items we're going to be using from the bag. As you can see, we have 3 beautiful strands of crystals. We also have a pile of loose crystals here, and we have one of the toggle clasps that came in the bag. I believe the bag came with 5 sets. Obviously, you can use whatever clasp you want. So let me go over the crystals real quick with you. This is a 22-inch strand of Faceted Glass Cube beads. They measure 6 millimeters, and the color is saddle brown. Now, you may have gotten another color. There were 2 options, either saddle brown or amber. So if you received the other color, that would be okay as well. And I'm pretty sure this is saddle brown. I could be wrong, but like I said, the amber would work as well. And here we have a 16-inch strand of Rondelle beads. As you can see, the color is wheat. They measure 8 by 5 millimeters. And here we have another strand of Rondelle beads. It also measures 16 inches, but I'm a little bit confused about the name because the description said they're pearl luster khaki Rondelle beads. So I'm not sure if I have the correct name of the color of the crystal. In any case, they measure 6 by 5 millimeters. And here we have some tiny rondelles. They measure 3 by 4 millimeters, and the color is orange with an AB finish. And as you can see, this is an antique bronze colored toggle clasp. It has like a twisted rope design, but like I said, you can use any clasp that you want. So now that we've gone over the beads, let me go over the other items. We're going to be using some ball head pins, and we're going to need quite a few of them, which is why I have the 2 different colors. I have a total of 45 bronze colored ones and 45 gold colored ones. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut these down because they're extremely long. That's another reason why I don't want to use all of my bronze colored ball head pins. I'm a little protective of the ball head pins that are super long because they're kind of pricey and it's hard to find them sometimes. But you're going to need a ball head pin that's at least 1.5 inches long. Anything shorter than that probably won't work because we're going to be doing some coiled loops. And here's some more items. As you can see, I have some jump rings, some crimp tube covers, and some crimp tubes. The jump rings are 4 millimeters in size and they're in a bronze color, and so are the crimp tube covers. Now my crimp tube beads are gold because I didn't have bronze. It's really difficult to find seamless crimp tubes that are bronze colored, but I'm not too concerned because I'm going to be covering them up with the crimp tube covers. Alright, we're going to get started. Now this is a very tedious job, guys, because we're going to be building a bunch of charms, and we're going to be using every one of these beads. I'm going to build a total of 90 charms, 30 of these cubes, 30 of these rondelles, and another 30 of these little tiny ones. Now you may need to create more or less depending on how long you want your bracelet. You're going to have to figure that out. I always try to build more than I need because even if I have some left over, I can always use them for earrings or whatever. So let me show you how to build these. It's actually pretty easy. I'm going to use these ball head pins for the cubes, and the reason I want to use these is because they have a slightly bigger ball than these, and the cubes have very big holes. And I definitely don't want the ball head pin to slide through that hole. If it does, what you can do is use an 11/0 size seed bead. So you would thread the seed bead on first and then the cube. And like I said, I'm going to trim mine off because I don't need the whole pin. So I'm going to remove the excess and leave about, I would say 3/4 of an inch, something like that. And I do save these, I don't throw these away. So here's what we have. As you can see, I have about 3/4 of an inch. And now using some round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the pin at the very tip, and I don't want my loop to be very big. I want it to be pretty small, but you do want to make sure that it's flush. So once you have your pliers in the right place, you're going to go ahead and start coiling. It's as simple as that. And you're just going to keep coiling until you get to the bead. Just like that. Pretty easy. Now one thing I like to do is to make sure that my coils are up against each other. So you want to press them together like this. And then the other thing I like to do is to straighten out my loop like this so that it sits properly on the bead. Pretty easy. And that's all there is to it. We're going to do every single one of these just like that. Now one thing I want to mention, if you don't want to trim your ball head pins and you want to have more coils, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you how you want to do it. I just find that the more coils you have, the more spaced out the charms are going to be, and the more rigid the bracelet's going to be. But if that's what you want, then by all means, you can make more than just 2 coils. It's personal preference and it's completely up to you. Now I'm going to be using the gold ball head pins on the little orange ones because they're smaller, and I'll probably use them on the other light colored rondelles. But you can mix and match. You can certainly use the bronze colored ones on any of the beads that you want to. So anyway guys, I'm going to do all of them the exact same way. I'm going to speed up the film so that this video doesn't end up being too long, and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see, I completed all of the charms except for this one. I wanted to go over some little tips with you. And guys, these are not perfect, okay? For example, as you can see, this loop is not sitting perfectly in the middle of that bead, but I'm not too concerned because once you thread everything onto the beading wire, you're not going to really see it. But if you want to straighten it out, like I said, you can just insert your pliers like this. And then what I would recommend that you do, instead of trying to turn the loop, I would recommend that you grab the bead and turn the bead like this. It works out a little bit better, and then if you have to continue coiling, you can do that. But let me go over this one more time with you. Now you can either coil away from you or you can coil towards you. It's up to you how you want to do it. I prefer to coil towards me. So I'm going to place my pliers like this, making sure that it's flush, and then using my finger as leverage, I'm going to press down onto my finger like this and then coil. And as I coil, I want to make sure that that coil is moving this way, away from me. So you want the coil to be moving towards the tip of the pliers. And as I'm coiling, I'm also pressing down with the nose of the pliers to make sure that the coils are even. And like I said, if you want to straighten out that coil, what you have to do is move the bead and then continue coiling. So you're just going to keep coiling and moving the bead until the coil sits on top of the bead. It really doesn't have to be perfect, okay? It really doesn't. None of these are perfect, to be quite honest. But I did want to show you one thing. If you'll notice, that little sharp end is sticking out. Now I'm not too concerned about it because, like I said, you're not going to see it, but if it really bothers you, you can actually snip it off. You just have to be very careful to make sure you don't snip the rest of the coils. Let me go ahead and straighten this coil out. So that looks a little bit better, as you can see. So anyway guys, that's basically it. Let me go ahead and get the beading wire and we'll get started with assembling the bracelet. As you can see, I've pulled out more beads. These are the 8x5mm rondelles in the color wheat. And I also have a couple of the beads that we use for the charms here. These are the 6x5mm rondelle beads in the color pearl luster khaki. I'm going to be using some Beadalon beading wire, but you can use any brand. This is 49 strand beading wire. It's in a gold color, as you can see. And the thickness of this one is 0.018 of an inch or 0.46 millimeters. And I usually give myself at least 2 inches at each end to do the crimping. But of course you can use less if you want to. It's up to you. In any case, I always cut myself a little extra. So I'm going to cut myself an 11-inch piece. It's better to have too much beading wire than not enough. I'm going to place one of these clips at the end. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. So now I'm going to thread on the beads and the charms, and I'm not going to do the crimping just yet. I want to wait till everything's threaded on to make sure that I have the correct length. So I'm going to start with one of these 6x5mm rondelles. And now I'm going to thread a total of 6 charms, 2 of each kind. And you can do it in any kind of order that you want to, guys, okay? There's no rule. It's better if it's random. As long as you get 2 of each kind, that's all you need to worry about. And this is the 6th charm. So let me show you what we have. Now it doesn't look like much right now, but when everything's threaded on and they're all up against each other, it's going to look really nice. So now that we have the 6 charms, we're going to thread on one of these large rondelles in the color wheat. These are the 8x5mm rondelles. And now I'm going to thread on another 6 charms. And once again, I'm going to try to be random. I don't want to load them in any specific order. So there's my 6, and now I'm going to load another one of these large rondelles. Let me show you what we have. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. Once everything's loaded and all the charms are up against each other, it's going to fill in all the spaces. So I'm going to keep doing this pattern until I get a 7-inch length. And I'm pretty sure I have enough charms, but if I need more, I can always make more. Or if I have too many, like I said before, I can use them to make earrings later on. So let me speed up the film and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I had some charms left over, which is perfect because I'll be able to make some earrings later on, or maybe I'll make a necklace. You can actually take this same design and make a gorgeous necklace with it, which I might do later on. But anyway, guys, in looking at this, it looks like it's going to be long enough. Let me just measure it real quick. It measures about 6 inches, which is perfect because I still need to add this bead and the toggle clasp and the jump rings. So by the time I do all that, it'll be a 7-inch bracelet. So let's go ahead and add this bead. As you can see, we finished and ended with the same smaller rondelle. So now that this part's complete, all we have to do is crimp it off and add the clasp. Here are 2 crimp tubes. Here are a couple of wire guardians. And here's my crimp bead covers, or crimp tube covers, I should say. So let's go ahead and do one end. You're simply going to thread the crimp tube on like this. And now before we feed the end back through the crimp tube, I'm going to attach one of these wire guardians. So I'm going to go in one end like this. And now take the tail and feed it through the other end. Pull it through. Take the tail and feed it through the crimp tube. And bring everything up like this. Let me close up the legs of this wire guardian a little bit. Now the biggest challenge about crimping is that you have to make sure that the wire is not crossing inside that crimp tube. If you hold it this way, you should have better luck. I'm going to place the crimp tube inside the first notch, which is the one that creates the U shape. Crimp down, like that. Turn it on its side. And now if you'll notice, my pliers have 3 notches up front. I usually choose the middle notch. So I'm going to place the crimp tube inside the middle notch. And I'm placing it in sideways, as you can see. And now when I squeeze the pliers, it folds the crimp tube over. And then I always go to the smaller notch to tighten it up a little bit. And I even use the tip sometimes. So this is what you should have. Once you've done that, it's safe to cut the tail off. You really don't have to feed it back through any beads, guys, okay? As long as you do your crimping correctly, there's no need to feed it back through the beads. I know some people do that. I mean, if you want to do that, by all means do it. So this is what you should have. And now let's go ahead and attach the crimp tube cover. It's a little tricky to slide it on, but I usually go from underneath and it seems to work better. Now to close the crimp tube cover, I use these pliers. These are also crimping pliers. I just find that it's a lot easier to close the cover with these kinds of pliers versus using chain nose. But you do have to be careful and you need to go slow and be gentle so you don't dent the metal. I usually go all the way around the bead to make sure I get a nice round shape. So that looks pretty good. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and move the beads down. Let me remove this clip. And now I'm going to slide on another crimp tube. Bring it down. And just like before, we need to attach a wire guardian. Going in one end. Bring it down and go through the other end. Slide it all the way down. And now we're going to take the tail and thread it through the crimp tube. Slide everything down. Sometimes it's easy if you grab the wire guardian and pull the tail of the beading wire. Now you don't want the bracelet to be too tight because you want it to be fluid. So you want to make sure you check that, but at the same time you don't want any spaces between the charms. So once again, I'm going to close the little legs of the wire guardian. And now I'm going to go ahead and crimp the crimp tube. Turn it on its side. Place it in the middle notch and fold it over. Tighten it up a little bit. And this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and snip off the excess. And now let me slide on the crimp tube cover. And close it up. That looks pretty good. So now that we've crimped off the ends, we're going to attach the clasp. Here's my toggle clasp, and here are 2 4mm jump rings. Let's go ahead and open up one of these jump rings. Connect it to the loop or the wire guardian, and now let's connect the bar portion of the toggle clasp. Close it up. And now let's do this side the same way. Open up the jump ring, connect it to this side, and connect the ring portion of the toggle clasp. and close up the jump ring. And that's it, guys. What a beautiful bracelet this is. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's a very easy bracelet to make, and like I said, you know, don't be too picky about your charms and the coils on the charms, because you really don't see the coils once everything's loaded onto the beading wire. So let me go ahead and clean up my workspace, and I'll come back and say goodbye. Well, I absolutely love this bracelet. I really do. I was going to actually give it away, but I've decided to keep it because it's so gorgeous. One thing I do want to mention, if you use bigger beads, you may have to make your bracelet a little bit longer just because the beads themselves take up space. So what I would recommend you do before you add the clasp is to put it around your wrist. I forgot to do that today, unfortunately, but put it around your wrist first to make sure that it fits before you actually crimp it off and put on the clasp. But I just love this bracelet. I love how it feels. It feels really nice. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope I've inspired you. Go out and make your own bracelets. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Bye.